Welcome back to another project. In this project, we're going to create a step progress bar. As you can see from the final version of the project, we have 5 steps. From the start, step 1, a step 2, a step 3, and final. Also, we have 2 buttons here. When we are in the start position, the previous button is in disabled mode. And when we press on the next button, the step 1 is appeared, and also the previous button is not disabled anymore. As we keep continue to the final step, the next button is going to change to disabled mode. We can come back to the previous steps using the previous button. The other things you can see is that when the step is not active, it has a gray color with cross icon. But when it activated, it gets the green color with check icon. Also, the step 2 is appeared under it. These numbers are created dynamically using JavaScript. In the next section, we're going to start with the HTML part of this project, and we're going to continue with the CSS and JavaScript. So see you in the next section. Alright, let's start our project. First, we open the Visual Studio Code and we close the Get Started tab. In the File menu, we click on Open Folder. I would like to create the project in my desktop, but you can create it anywhere you like in your computer. So we click on Desktop, we click New Folder button to create a new folder, and we name the file Step Progress Bar. And here we click on Select Folder. We click here to close the Get Started tab again, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we create an HTML file. So we right click and we click on New File. We name the file index.html. And we press enter. Now we have index.html on the right side, but it is completely empty. But we can get the HTML5 boilerplate by just using an exclamation mark. We just write an exclamation mark and we click on the first auto suggestion. Now we have the HTML5 boilerplate inside the index.html file. The first line is the doc type, which tells the browser what version of HTML the page is written in. For HTML5, we just need to have HTML. In the next line, we have an HTML tag, which covers all the HTML file and includes head and body tag. The lang attribute sets the language of the page, which is in our case is English. Then in the head section, we have 3 metadatas and title. The charset attribute actually defines the HTML character encoding, and UTF-8 is recommended by HTML5 for web developers because it contains all the characters and symbols. This meta tag tells the Internet Explorer browser to use the most recent rendering engine, which is Edge, and also we have a viewport meta tag which tells the browser on how to resize the page. Let's use Alt-C to see all the code. So here we have the first part actually sets the width of the page to the device's screen and also set the initial zoom level of the browser to 100%. Then we have the title tag. Title actually sets the title of the page and we can see it in the browser. In order to see the browser inside the Visual Studio Code, we can just right click and click on Live Preview, Show Preview. The Live Preview extension we have installed previously, so we use it here. Now we have the browser completely empty, but with the title document. Let's change the title to Step Progress Bar. We can see it here. And in the body section, first we add a container. Div with a class of container, and inside this container we put our progress container, which contains the progress bar. And inside the progress container, let's close this for now so we have more space to see. So inside the progress container we have 2 bars. Actually, we use HR tag to create a line break, and we add a class of progress bar back to the one we want to use for the behind the bar with the lighter color. And we just copy this again. You see the line breaks here. And this one will be front one. Later, we're going to style them inside the CSS file. After this, we have a div with a class of step and also the class of, let's say, checked, because I want to the first progress step to be checked, and then the other ones to be unchecked or has a times icon. So later we can active them using the buttons. So inside this, I would like to add an icon similar to check. So in order to have icons in our project, we can use Font Awesome. So let's go to the browser, the Google Chrome, and here we search for Font Awesome. And here in the first result, fontawesome.com, we click on icons. And you can see a lot of icons. First, we search for check. So we get the check one, the check icon. You can copy the code, which is the I tag with the class of FAS and FA check. We click to copy the HTML code, and we go back to the Visual Studio Code and we paste it just here. We cannot see the check icon yet because we have to link the Font Awesome to the HTML code. So we go to the browser again, and in the new tab, we search for cdn.js, and we click on cdnjs.com. In the search bar, we search for Font Awesome, and we click on this link. We scroll down a little bit, and we click here to copy the link tag, and we go back to the Visual Studio Code, and we paste it just after the title tag. Now we can see the check icon in the browser. Also, I want to have a small tag, just write a small text. So we just write start here. And also under this div, I want to make another div with a class of step. But inside this, I just want to add the times icon. So we go back to the browser, and inside the Font Awesome, we go up and we search for times. Here we click on the first icon. You can see the HTML tag here, which is the I tag with a class of FAS and FA times. We click to copy the code. We go back to the Visual Studio Code, and here we paste the HTML tag. Now we can see the cross icon or times icon here. So we copy this 3 times using Alt-Shift-Down, arrow down, Alt-Shift, arrow down, 1, 2, 3. And just outside this div, the progress container div, if we follow this line, just under this div, we add 2 buttons. First, we just write down button. We add a class of btn, and I want this button has an icon of a arrow, the left arrow. So we go back to the browser, and in the Font Awesome website, we search for arrow left, or arrow left. Here we click on the first icon, which is the free one. Just be careful, some icons you have to pay. So we click on the first free one. And here we copy the HTML tag, which has the class of FAS, FA arrow left. For the right arrow, we just need to change the left to right. So we copy the code, we go to the Visual Studio Code, and we paste the code here using Ctrl-V. All right, now we have the icon inside the button. Just copy this button using Alt-Shift and arrow down, and just change the left to right. Also, let's add that ID here, and tell this ID just preview, and here we just add an ID of next. And for the first button, I want it to be disabled as a default. All right, that was it for the HTML part. In the next section, we're going to start styling these project. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have finished with the HTML part. In this section, we're going to start styling our project using CSS. First, we need to create a CSS file. So we open the Explorer using Ctrl-Shift-E. And we create a CSS file here. We just need to right-click and we click on New File. We name the file style.css. Before starting to style our project using style.css file, we need to add a link to the style.css file within the HTML code. So we go back to the index.html, and just after the font awesome link tag and at the end of the head tag, we just add a link and we click on the third auto suggestion, the one with the CSS. Now we have a link tag with the relationship between the HTML file and the external style sheet, and href attribute here defines the destination of the link. As both files, index.html and the style.css, are located at the same directory, we just need to have style.css for the URL. All right, let's start styling our project. We go to the style.css. We start from the body section. So we just write body. We open a set of curly braces. First, we remove the space around the body element, the default margin, using margin 0. And let's close this. And we open this a little bit more. Let's change the display to flex so we can bring the items to the center horizontally. So we just say justify content center, and we set the height to be 100% of the viewport height, and we can bring the items to the center vertically using align item centers. Just make sure to set the height to the 100% of viewport height, otherwise the items cannot come to the middle using align item center. Let's change the background color to be yellow, and let's style the main div that covers everything, the container, div with the class of container. So we just say container, and we want to bring all the items to the center, so we can use the text align center to bring the items to the center. Excuse me. So next one, we want to style this progress container class, this div that covers the line breaks and these things, except the buttons. So we just say progress container. First, we set the width to 500 pixels, so we have a big, longer lines. We change the display to flex. As you can see now, we have the lines here and the other ones at the end. So we just need to remove the position of the lines. We should set the position of the lines to be absolute. So these icons will be at the top of these things. So we just change the lines. As you can see, the line has the class of progress bar back and progress bar front. First, we start with the progress bar back. We just set the position to absolute, but we need to specify the relativity. So we should set here the position relative. And the next one is the front one. So we copy this one more time using Alt Shift arrow down, and we change this back to front. So as you can see now, everything came here and the lines are removed, but they're still there, but they don't have a width. So, and here we want to distribute these icons evenly throughout this width, which is 500 pixels. So here we just use justify content space between to distribute them evenly inside this 500 pixels. All right, let's change the height of the back to, for example, 4 pixels. and we just get a width of 100%. Now we can see the bar. Let's change the background color to light gray, and let's remove the border, and let's bring it to the behind the icons by changing its z index to -1. The default z index for everything is 0. So when we change it to -1, it goes behind. Now let's copy this to the front progress bars as well, because they are very similar to each other. Just the front one is at the top of the back one. So we just change the front one color to green. So now you can see the front one. If we change the width, for example, to 50%, you see the bar until here. The things we are going to do is to use JavaScript to change this bar to go each step when we click on the buttons. All right, let's style the step and make them circle. So with the things we're going to tap is here, the class step that covers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have 5 steps. So which we just say dot step, which change the width to 30 pixels, height to 30 pixels as well, and we just change the background color to white. Now we can see them, but it's a square. We just can use border radius 50% to make it circle. And let's bring these icons to the middle by just changing the display to flex, and just say justify content center to bring them in the middle horizontally, and align item center to bring them vertically. And also let's add some border. We just say border. The border width, I want to be exactly like the bar. So just say 4 pixels, and we want it to be solid, and the color is light gray. And let's bring the bar just in the middle of the circle here. First we should remove the default margin of the HR tag. Just remember to remove it. Just say margin 0, and we set the top to 50% to bring it here. But this one brings the edge of the border to the middle. In order to bring it exactly to the middle, we should use the transform, translate Y, and just say -50%. Oh, sorry, translate Y, not X. So now the light gray bar is exactly at the middle, but the green one still not. So we just need to copy these 3 lines and paste it for the front as well. Yeah, now everything is fine. Let's change the color of these icons to the light gray as well. So we just need to use the color property and set it to light gray. All right. But the first one, the first step, we want it to be active and green, and has the check icon as well with the green color. But in order to do that, we just have to target this checked class, because the first step has an extra class checked. And later, by using JavaScript, we're gonna add the checked class to different step. So we're gonna make them like active when we press the button. So we target that using .step .checked, and we just change the color to green. You can see the change. And also I want the border color to be green as well. All right, and let's bring this start to here in the bottom. So for tapping that one, we just say step checked, and we just target to this a small tag, and just say small here. And we just say position absolute to change the position. Now it came to the middle, but we just say button -20 pixels. Let's change the font of the start using font family property. We just say font family, we just change it to, for example, cursive. And next thing I would like to do is to install the buttons. The buttons has the class of btn. So we go back to the installer CSS, and just below this, we just write .btn, and we change the background color to slate blue. We remove the border. Let's change the color of the arrows to white using color white. Let's add some padding. So padding, the padding up and down, or I should say top and bottom, to be 10 pixels, and left and right to be 20 pixels. All right. Let's add some space between the bars and the button using margin. So the top margin, I want to be just 70 pixels, and I want the left and right to be 10 pixels, and the button just 0. Let's add some, let's round the borders of the buttons using border radius. Just say 5 pixels is enough for the button. And let's change the cursor to be pointer. So when we hover over the button, we can see a pointing hand. And let's add some box shadow to add some shadow effects to the button. The first value of the box shadow is the position of the horizontal shadow. We just set it to be 0 pixels. Just say 0. The position of the vertical shadow is the second one. We set it to be 4 pixels. Now we can see it here, but in white color. And let's add the third value is the blur radius. We set it to be 8 pixels. And let's just change the color of the shadow to black, but with the 30% opacity. So we can use RGBA function. We set 0 for red, green, and blue, which gives us the black color, and just 30% opacity. So we just put 0.3 for the alpha value. Let's use Alt-Z to turn on the word wrap so we can see all the codes. So that's enough for the box shadow. And let's add some opacity when we hover over the button. So we just use the hover pseudo class. Just say btn hover and change the opacity to, for example, 90%, as you can see. And let's change the scale of the button using the active pseudo class. Just say btn, and we add the active CSS pseudo class by adding a clone, and just say active. We open a set of curly braces, and we change the scale by using the scale function, which is the method of a transform property. So just say transform, and we use the scale function, and we just say 97%. So when we click on the button, we see the scale is getting smaller. The left one is disabled, but this one is enabled because we put the disabled attribute to the first button. Let's change the color of the disabled button so it would be more clear. We can use the disabled pseudo class. So we just say btn disabled. We open a set of curly braces, and we just write, we change the color, background color to light gray. All right. So that was it for the CSS part. In the next section, we're going to add functionality to the project using JavaScript. Oh, first, the one thing I forgot was I wanted this bar to be smaller when we change the size of the screen. So we add a media query here, and we just say if the screen is just say max width to be 500 pixels. When the screen is smaller than 500 pixels, we want the this progress container from the 500 pixel to be 90% of the viewport width. So we just here we just say dot progress container, and we set the width to be 90% of the viewport width. We just said VW. So when we decrease the size of the screen less than 500 pixels, we see that the bars is closing automatically, and it's very responsive. And also, let's change the width to be the width of the green bar. Instead of 50%, we just put it to 0%. But in the next section, when we are using JavaScript to add functionality, we dynamically change the width of the progress bar front to the step that is active. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we have finished styling our project using CSS. In this section, we're going to add functionality to our project using JavaScript. First, we need to create a JavaScript file. We open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E, and on the left side, we right-click and we click on New File. We name the file index.js, and we press Enter. We just move this file to this window by dragging it. And before using the JavaScript, we need to add a link to the JavaScript file within the HTML code. So we go back to the index.html, and just at the end of the body tag here, we add a script tag. We just write SC, and we press and select the second auto suggestion, the one with the src. As both files, I mean the index.html and index.js, are located at the same directory, we just need to write index.js for the URL inside the src attribute. Now we can use the JavaScript in our project. So first we close this Explorer section so we have more space for coding, and we decrease the size of this window as well. We save the file, we go to the index.js. First, I want to active the next button and add an event listener to it. So when we click on it, we're going to add some checked class to each step. So we're going to change the times icon to the check icon and make the border green. So first we get the next button item, which is here, the button with and the ID is next. So we can get this button with the ID of next by using the getElementById method. So here we just make a const, and we name the const next element, and we use the getElementById method inside the document. The ID we want to target is next. All right. So then we want to add an event to this element using addEventListener method. So we just write next element dot addEventListener. The addEventListener method has two parameters. The first parameter is the event we want to target, which is click. And the second one is a callback function, which will be triggered when this event happens. So we make a function here, an arrow function. We just open a set of parentheses. We've had a fat arrow, and we open a set of curly brackets. Inside these curly brackets, we can write down our statements. So first, make a variable here, and we call it current checked. Now the current checked is the first position, so we set it to be 1 as the default. And when someone clicks on the button, we want to add a number to this current check and make it 2, for example. We just say current check, and we add 2+ here to increment it 1 each time someone clicks on the button. We can console log the current check and see the change when we click on the button. So we save the file, we open the console using this hamburger button and open DevTools pane. And inside the console section, when we click on the button, you see that the current checks became 2. That was 1 as a default. If you press again, it becomes 3, 4, 5, and etc. But we don't want this current check to go more than the number of the steps. The steps here is just now we have 5 steps. So in order to get this 5 steps and count them, we need to target all the divs with the class of step by using query selector all. So here in the index.js at the top, we get all the step elements. We just say step. We just make it prolog because it's more than one step, and just say element. And we write document dot query selector all, and the class we want to target is a step. And because it's a class, we should add a dot at the beginning and just write down step. And if we console log, let's console log the steps here. We just say log step element, steps element, sorry. You can see we got 5 node, we got a node list with the 5 arrays. So we open it, you can see that we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which then the length is 5. So here we want to say if the current checked is greater than the steps element dot length, which is 5, you can see here. If it's more than 5, just set the current check to the length of it, so it doesn't go more than 5. So if we just remove this console log here and we clear the console using this button, and if you press the button now, we get 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you press more, we just get 5, not more than 5. Now, instead of console logging, let's create a call a function. For example, update step progress, and we create the function here. We just write function, and let's remove this div tools. So we just write update step progress, and we create a loop that contains all the steps, and we update each step according to the number of current check. So we just say step elements, which has 5 elements, and we just use the for each method to trigger a function for all these 5 elements. We get the elements here. We just name the element step element, and also we can get the index of the element. And we add a fat arrow to create the function, and we say if the index is less than the current check, the current index that is going inside the for each is less than the current check that can be changed by the button. If it's less than this, we just add the class checked. We just say step element dot class list property and use the add method, and the class we want to add is checked. So when we click on the button, you see that the class checked is added to the second step, and the third, fourth, and the last one. But still, the icon, the times icon is still there, and it didn't change to the check icon. We can do that by changing the inner HTML of the step element, the current one. So we just say step element dot inner HTML, and instead of inside a set of backtick, we can write the HTML tag. We can just copy the HTML tag from the index.html. We want this I tag, so we go to the index.js, and here we paste the I tag, which is the check icon. If you press next, we see that the next step has the icon checked, and so on. Also, we want to add the text under them. For the first one, we want to add the start, and the second one is step 1, step 2, and step 3, and finally the last one we want to add the text final. So we copy this small tag and paste it here. And if you press the button, you see that a start under it, but all of them is a start. So we make this a start a variable using the $sign and a set of curly braces. and we say if the index is equal to 0, which is the first one, then just write start. If the index is equal to 4, which is the last one, but we can just say step element dot length. This one, steps dot length is 5, but we want the index IDX to be equal to 4. We just add a -1 here. We can use Alt-C to turn on the board wrap. We can see all the codes clearly. And otherwise, we just want to say, oh, sorry, it didn't set the condition. So we just say if the IDX is equal to 4, just write final, which is here. And otherwise, just say step, add a space, and just add the index. So we try it. We just press the button. Now we see the step 1, step 2, step 3, and the last one is final. Okay, let's do this for the previous button as well. Let's remove the disabled so we can we can set the previous as well. So we just at the top we target the previous one. So we just copy the next one and we change the next to previous. Just say prev and prev. This prev is actually the ID we used here for the button, and we just copy this code and we change this next to previous. And instead of increasing the number of current check, we just decrease it. And instead of checking it's going more than 5, we just say if goes less than 1, just set it to be 1. We can test it now. We just go to the next and we come back. It doesn't work yet. So we just test. Here we set it. We set the IDX less than current check, but we didn't do it for the IDX more than current checks. So we just say here else. Else we want to, instead of adding the check, we want to remove the check. So we just say step element dot class list, and we use the remove method. And the class we want to remove is checked. And if we test it here, we see if we press now, we remove it. But we want it to go back to the times icon when we remove it. So we use the inner text method. So we just say step element dot inner HTML. We open a set of backtick and we go to the index.html and we copy this times tag, which is from the font awesome, and we paste it here. Now we test it again. When we come back, the icons is changed to the cross or times icon again. So the things we did, let's review it. So we checked if the IDX, the index of the for each loop, is less than current check. We add the class of checked, and we change the inner HTML to this one, which is the font awesome icon check, and also the text under the steps. If the IDX is 0, is a start. If the IDX is equal to the last one, which is 4, is final. And the otherwise, we just say a step IDX. And if the IDX is more than the current check, we remove the checked, and also we change the inner HTML to the font awesome times icon. Let's change the color of the bar when we go into the next button by changing the width of the front bar. As you remember, we just if you remember in the front bar, when we change the width, for example, to 50%, it goes to the middle. So we wanted to do that dynamically using JavaScript. So here at the end, after the function, just at the end of the function, just because we want to update it. Yeah, no, just at the end of the function here, we just say, first we bring the elements. The element we want to target is this front bar with the class of progress bar front. We copy this. We can get this element by using query selector method. So at the top, we just write const the progress progress element is equal to document.querySelector. Because it's a class, we just need to add dot and we paste the class here, the progress bar front. And we target this here. We just say we want to change the style, so we just write dot style, and the style we want to change is width, and we set it this one. For example, here you see we just change it to 100%, and if we press, you see it's 100%. But we want this to be dynamic, so first we calculate how many steps has the class of checked. So we target the checked class inside the step. So we just say const the checked, just the checked number. We just say document dot query selector all, and we want to target all the classes with the class, all the elements with the class of checked. Okay. So instead of saying 100%, we make a variable here. We keep the percentage, and we just say the number of elements with the class of checked. So we just say checked number over the this one should be dot length, and we want to see how many steps we have over the steps dot length which is 5. And we multiply this to 100 because this is a percentage, and we add the percentage at the end by using a plus. So when we do this one, you see that the width is changing, but it's not correct because we have to add a -1 to each of them to be correct. So we just we have to put them in the parentheses on this one as well. And we test it now. As you can see, the width is correct now for each step. Let's add some transition. When we press the button, we see the transition, and we see the width changes linearly. So we go to the style.css, and in the progress bar front, we add a transition. Just 0.4 seconds linear, and we want to apply this to the width. So now we see that the width changes linearly. Let's add the transition to the step as well. So we see a transition here as well. So in the step checked, we add a transition to all because we want everything to be affected by the transition. We just say 0.4 second and linear. Now you see it. And we want it to be changed just after the line reached to this step. So we added transition delay as well. So we just say transition delay, for example, 4.3 seconds. Now you see after the line reaches the step, you see the change in this step. Yeah, that looks better. So the next things I would like to do is to turn this button to the disabled when it reaches to the final, and change this button to disable when we are at the beginning. We just need to add a condition here at the end. We just say if the current check is equal to 1, which is the step 1 here, then let's change this button, which is the previous element, disabled 1 to true. So we check it. First we go next, and when we come back, the button turns to disabled mode. Let's change this button to be disabled as default. So we go to the index.html, and in that button, the previous button, we add the disabled attribute. We go back to the index.js, and we add another condition. Just say else if, and we say if the current check is equal to the last step, which is steps element dot length, we want the next button to be disabled. So we just say next element dot disabled to be equal to true. We test it, so we press next, 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 And in the final section, we see that the button is disabled. But we want these icons to come back to the enabled mode when we are not in the final and the start section, in the step 1, step 2, or step 3. So we just add it else here. So we say otherwise, just set the previous element dot disabled to false, and also next element dot disabled to false. So when we press the next button, we see the previous button is enabled, and when we go to the last section, the next button is disabled, but when we go back, it comes back to the enabled mode. And the good things about this project is if we add the steps, for example, now we have 1, 2, 3 steps. And if we want to add another step, that is very easy. We just need to copy the last step tag one time, just using Alt-Shift arrow down. And now we have 4 steps in the middle. The code works perfectly for this one as well. So this is completely dynamic. And if we, for example, delete the last 2, we only have 2 steps left, which is, so we don't need to write the code again for the JavaScript part. It dynamically calculates the number of steps here by using query selector all. So we're going to have a correct step number here. Yeah, that was it for our project. I hope you enjoyed and learned new things. So see you in the next project.